Hi, everybody. It's Susan. I wanted to talk to you today about the Gemini new moon coming up next week. I'm recording this on the 19th of May, and we're right in the middle of the Jupiter squaring the nodes, which is still holding on even at the time of this new moon. So it's just separating from the square. It's particularly relevant because Jupiter is ruling the North Node that it's squaring back in Pisces. And so this is a really interesting tie-in with the new moon because there's a lot about focusing forward and about creating some kind of plan, thinking in terms of your vision for the future, in terms of the Jupiterian quality, and strategizing and planning the day-to-day details of that vision in terms of the Gemini quality. So it's a really great moment to think about what you want out of the next little while. You could say the next 6 months if we go to the full moon this year, but actually there are families of moons. And this particular new moon is part of a family that begins with this new moon and will end in 2027. So let me give you those dates because it's interesting to tie yourself back to the timings of these things. So this is the beginning in terms of the new moon that we have today. It's a Gemini new moon at 6 degrees and 5 minutes of Gemini. It's on the 27th of May, universal time. So if you're in North and South America, that will be the 26th of May, and everybody else will be on the 27th. So 27th of May at 3 a.m ish universal time. For those of you who are new here, welcome. And I use the whole sign system both for these readings and for my natal readings. When I see individuals, I use the whole sign chart. I find it gives me very, very clear results. I did use Placidus for many years and I switched over about 10 years ago. So when you ask your comments in the comment section, if you ask your questions about your natal chart, please know that you should count the number of houses from your sign. If you're using Placidus, I cannot help you. I can't see your chart. These are general readings, and the only way to do them is with the whole sign system. And I've answered that question so many times that I'm now including the video that I did 2 years ago-ish, 2.5 years ago, where I described the difference between the house systems and why that matters. And that will help you understand, especially if you're new to astrology. So look in the description box below this video, which is where you find all the information, including how to get a hold of me, what kinds of things I offer, more information about the video that I'm posting, and so on. So that's what Gemini is all about. It's about asking questions and not sitting passively to be spoon-fed the information, but I will ask the question. I will find out for myself. I will reach out and try and Google that information or search for that information and discover the answer before I passively expect other people to tell me. So this is the Gemini energy that we're in right now. Here we have the Pluto, which is trining Mercury, which adds to this curiosity. So Mercury, rather Mercury is trining Pluto. Mercury is the ruler of this moon, and it's under the beams of the sun at the time of this new moon. So Mercury is coming in for a rebirth, and it will be in the mix because of its rulership in Gemini. It had just connected with the sun just days earlier when Mercury was conjunct the sun. And so it's reborn in this way. So this is part of the longer Mercury retrograde cycle that we just came out of from March and into April. And now Mercury is reborn and connecting now to the rulership of this new moon. Right. And here I was telling you about the lunar cycle when I got a little waylaid there. Um, this is the new moon that is starting a new cycle, and it's ending the lunar cycle that began on the 30th of May, 2022. So that's 3 years ago. So these lunar cycles have a very long arc of time. So as I said earlier, we can look forward 6 months and say, well, there's a full moon coming up in the end of the year, which would be the Gemini full moon in the Sagittarius season. But we're with this reference to this degree point, there is a lunation that happened that triggered this whole cycle that we're watching right now. So that was the 30th of May, 2022. And then there was a culmination of that particular cycle And the reason I'm giving you these dates is so that you can reflect back on your experience and in the Gemini area of your chart and what was going on in your life around this time, because it's a way of looking forward now that you understand the significance of the different changes. And again, in a good Gemini way, you need to be proactive. So again, astrology is not, don't expect things to happen to you. Your life won't really advance very much if everything is about an expectation of what's going to happen to me. There will always be a sense of victimization and dissatisfaction with life if you live your life that way. So this is about taking information and participating in it. It's like if I were to tell you it's going to rain in an hour, you would think, well, maybe I'll take my umbrella, rather than just saying, well, what's going to happen? Will I get wet? This is the way I want you to use astrology, because this is the most enlightened way of working through your own life. So these are just some dates that you can reflect on with that in mind. How can I understand the arc of my own life through these dates? So the full moon, that was the culmination of the new moon cycle of the 30th of May, 2022, was on the 27th of November, 2023. So notice that that was a year and a half later. And that full moon was on at 4 degrees 57 minutes of Gemini. And then that more recently led to the third quarter moon. So there are the quarter moons and so on. I'm not going to give you all those dates, but the third quarter moon is more recent in our memory. And that last quarter moon was on the 26th of August, 2024. So that's looking back 6 months now. No, even more, sorry, time flies. 10 months, is that? 10 months. So the last quarter moon was at 3 degrees and 38 minutes of Gemini. So you can reflect on what was going on for you at the end of August 2024. That was, by the way, roughly corresponding to when Uranus stationed retrograde. And there was just the week before, there was the square between Jupiter and Saturn. So there was a lot going on there. And this would have also reflected in the Jupiter last quarter moon, or sorry, the last quarter moon in Gemini, because Jupiter was still in that when it was squaring Saturn, it was still in Gemini at that time, or relatively newly in Gemini. So then we're coming to this moment in time, which is the new moon I'm going to describe now. So this is, of course, 27th of May. But if we go forward in time and think in terms of strategizing, I'm just going to take you to the full moon, because otherwise it just gets way too abstract. The first quarter moon, where you can see the results of this particular lunation and what might be requiring some adjustment on your part, or what might be showing you where you're going in the right direction or needing to evolve in a different direction. That's going to be on the 24th of February, 2026. So that's a very interesting dynamic in terms of that first quarter moon too, because that is roughly, I think, within 2 days of when Saturn and Neptune re-enter Aries, where they are currently. Saturn and Neptune are together, but not completely, not perfecting the conjunction until the Gemini first quarter moon comes along, and that's when they will be perfecting that conjunction. So I think there's a very interesting tie-in to what's going on in this particular lunation. 24th of February, 2026. Check your calendars. The next lunation that will be significant from this one is the culmination of it, which is the full moon in Gemini. And that's going to be the 24th of November, 2026. So again, 18 months from here. So as I said, you can look 6 months down the line and say, okay, there's a theme that I'm developing here, but it's not necessarily going to tie in exactly to the events of this particular moon. It will be a quality of Gemini that you're looking at, the dynamic between the Sagittarius and Gemini axis. So do consider those dates, check that out in terms of your own life, going back in time and then going forward in time, and how you might want to plan with that in mind. And of course, Gemini is a super social energy. And so here we have this desire to connect, desire to reach out to people, particularly strongly, as I said, because we've got Mercury in a trine building, and it's an application of a trine to Pluto, which is really, really strong. I have something to say. I have something I need to communicate. I have something I need to decide. That's another Gemini thing. Decisions are not always easy for the air signs because there's a kind of a tendency to see all the different options. And sometimes there's a feeling of either having to sacrifice something if I choose something else, or there's a feeling of just overwhelm because I'm seeing all the possibilities. Um, at the end of the day, there's a choice that needs to be made. Jupiter is squaring the nodes. There's something that needs to be put in my awareness this whole week. So, leading up to the new moon, and then, of course, as it tapers off, it's still going to apply really strongly until Jupiter moves into Cancer. And that will be on the 9th of June. So the sun will still be in Gemini as Jupiter moves into Cancer. It's still going to be Gemini season. And so when the sun finally joins Jupiter in Cancer, that'll be the 20th or the 21st of June. I have to check the exact date. But that's when this feeling of understanding what it was that I was trying to do is going to come in stronger, because by then we will already have had the square that Jupiter is going to form with Jupiter back to Saturn and Neptune, where they are currently in Aries. So lots and lots of choices at this season, but based on things that we've already understood pretty clearly. And if you haven't understood pretty clearly what it is that you need to choose, you're not paying attention, or you're self-medicating, and that's not good either. So it's a really good time to really wake up and say, there's nobody going to save me. Nobody human, no other being is going to save me. I am here to act in this three-dimensional world, living through spirit, acting in the three dimensions, and dealing with what is coming ahead of me. So this notion of taking a decision is coming through perhaps a relational question as well, not only about what you want to achieve, but how you're relating to people. Because Gemini as an air sign is all about friends and connections through cousins and siblings and people that we hang out with. The way we exchange all kinds of things, the way we exchange information, the way we exchange money, the way we exchange, I don't know, news, ideas, inventions, and things like that. So, a great, great time to think in terms of where are my relations needing more communication, more, let's say, friendly communication, since Mercury is there also, boosting this new moon. Mercury is the ruler of Gemini. I'm very happy to be in Gemini. Um, and also because Jupiter is still there, this is the last time we're going to have a Gemini moon for 12 years, where Jupiter is accompanying that. So this is a really significant shift in the energy that is going in I see, a friendly way. And that becomes our choice. You see, these are always choices, right? So we also have a lot of support from this trine that is still holding, separating, but still holding between Venus and Mars, which has been the story of the last week or 10 days already. And this is really helpful. It's a dynamic of willingness, it's a dynamic of wanting something in a positive direction, wanting to achieve and move in a good, positive direction. And again, that's up to us how we manage that. It sometimes is also about our mindset, and that's also Mercury. What is my perspective? Am I a doom and gloom type of person? Am I unwilling to question my own assumptions, question my thoughts? I used to post this thing when I was teaching mindfulness that said, don't believe every thought you think. That's really important because sometimes people get so stuck in their thoughts that they assume that they are reality. Think of your thoughts like popcorn. That's also air, by the way. Popcorn, it's just stuff coming up. It just comes up, and you're not even necessarily creating it. It's just that you're in that moment, part of your consciousness is capturing that thought. And you get to decide, do I want to keep this or not? And let it go. Let it move through you. And this is where that creates a space. There's another good Gemini reference. The air element creates space to have a perspective on things. And this is why the air element is also much more of an intellectual sign. It's about reflecting and thinking about things and examining things and digesting them on an intellectual level. So we do have quite a lot of air and fire at the moment. The only Earth that we have is quite unstable in the sense that on the one side we have Uranus in Taurus, and on the other side we have Ketu, or the South Node, in Virgo. So that both of those are unstable qualities. So we really have to think fast. That's another Gemini quality. Think fast and think positive. Think in terms of what can I create? This is the inventive quality of Gemini. How can I stimulate something here? How can I move in a new direction without obsessing around all of the things that are happening and stagnating because I'm allowing my emotional fears or connections to what is happening hold me back. This is a big source of stress. So the one solution to the Gemini overwhelm, especially when Jupiter is in Gemini, is to consciously decide to pull back. I did this myself. I have Gemini, I have Jupiter in Gemini. I just had my Jupiter return about 10 days ago, a week ago. And around that same time, I consciously decided, and it was partly coming from within, it was coming through an intuition. I consciously and unconsciously decided that I had to stop doing certain things that I was doing that were a distraction from my work and a distraction from my bigger project at the moment, which is my book. And the course, I had been doing a course. I love mantra. That's one of the practices I've had for many, many years. So I was doing big mantra training to learn online these mantras from a friend of mine, Shantala, who teaches. And I'm exhausted by the end of the day. And then I have to sit there and practice these mantras and watch, again on Zoom and again online. And everything is intellectual. And I realized I can't do this anymore. And the moment that I took the decision to let it go and not think, okay, well, I started this, I must finish it. I let it go. It's just done. We're moving on. And I can pick it up at another time, that it's always there. The mantra's been there since the Vedic times. They're thousands of years old. It's not going to disappear because I'm not studying this at this moment. So what is the thing that you need to realize is a distraction that's pulling your energy in the wrong way and that you need to shift away from? And then that brings me to Chiron and Eris. And Chiron and Eris are also exactly conjoining at 25 degrees, 28 minutes of Aries. And this is extraordinary because it's happening at the time of this new moon, but it also has this quality of where do I undermine my intentions? Where do I undermine myself? The Chiron and Aries quality, and we'll go through the science and look at all these things. It has the notion of, am I good enough? Can I get through this? Have I got enough whatever information or capacity, or am I smart enough, and all those different dynamics? And that insecurity, and especially if this is your Chiron return, this will be even more powerful for you if you have Chiron in Aries natally. The Eris component of that is, where am I focusing blame outwards? Where am I trying to find hypocrisy out in the world? Where am I trying to stir up trouble when actually the feeling of being unsettled is coming from within? The feeling of being inadequate is part of the feeling that I am projecting outwards onto others. And that becomes a question around one's own hypocrisy. Now, this is it's a 2-degree sextile from Chiron and Eris to Jupiter. So we have to think big here. We have to think in terms of a wise understanding of ourselves, our life, our role in these dynamics. And again, the friendly dynamic of Gemini is always about two. There are two people hanging out. It's just, it's me in communication with the other. And how do I do that? And am I aware of myself and my way of communicating, or my way of understanding things within the dynamic of communication? And there we get this information from the Chiron Eris transit. So it's a great time to recognize where you might be pulling yourself back and then blaming circumstances, or blaming others, or blaming the economy, whatever, some politician that you either love or hate. Just look inside and go into that Jupiterian quality of understanding, wisdom, and inner guidance, and understand that that quality of the Chiron Eris is really a wake-up call around how we individually are in our own lives, and how is that bringing benefit or not? Is that helpful or not? What do we need to do to make that different? Now, just a few days later, Venus herself will conjoin Chiron. And so this is already a conjunction here. It's nearly, it's just over 5 degrees of a conjunction. But a really important transit nonetheless, because we bring in that piece of the relational quality. What do I need in relationship, and who am I in relationship? So we get away from the notion of everything is about me receiving something, or rather than me being a party to something. And this is an opportunity right through the end of May to question all of those assumptions. So I really do like this moon. I think if we take it up a notch, then we can learn a lot about ourselves at this time and then take action on that and move ourselves forward in the Gemini area of life with the support of the Aries area of life as well. So we do have one hiccup here that is a little bit tedious, which is that Mars is squaring Lilith, but this can also be hugely informative because that Mars is about our direction and about what we want to do. It's, by the way, also in Leo, so that also represents this notion of expressing myself. But it's not about blurting out my opinion. That can be that, but it's about expressing who I am through my actions. And that again ties back to everything I've just said here about the Venus Chiron Eras. And so this the square there to Black Moon Lilith, which is where we're often frustrated, it is something that is saying I need to do this differently. I need to step up differently in my life. I need to express myself differently to overcome whatever this thing is here in the areas in the Scorpio area of life, which is ruled by that Mars. So very interesting dynamic with the square from Mars to Black Moon Lilith. And then, of course, I've done other videos on the Saturn and Neptune conjunction. So that dynamic is a fresh start as well. It's a very different dynamic than what we've been accustomed to with both of those planets in Pisces for so many years. And now it's kind of like, let's go. Let's go. Let's move on. Let's do this thing. And the energy is building, and it's time now to move on and do our thing. So use this energy. This lunation is a fantastic energy for something that you want to create, something that you need to say, something that you want to teach. Oh, by the way, that's, of course, this is the point. I am now going to be launching my registration for my teaching the heart of the chart, finding the heart of the chart, which is an intermediate level class. It's not a beginner level astrology class. I might do one of those in the winter or in early 2026, but at the moment, I'm teaching people who understand already what it means to navigate a birth chart. You don't have to be professional, but you have to know all of the basics. So this is a fascinating way of understanding the natal chart. It's my way of reading the chart, which is where we find within the natal chart itself, without a synastry chart, we find our family and we find the story of our family that we're carrying. And how can we find that in the chart? And it's about really reading the essence of the planets and do they work? Why don't they work? Will they work better under certain conditions? And how is that in a particular chart? So if you're interested in those kinds of things, then look out. I will make this announcement at the new moon, and then we'll get started at the end of July. I'll give you all the information coming up as of the new moon in Gemini. Righty ho. So let's have a look. We're going to start with Aries. And for Aries, Sun, Moon, and Ascendant, and read in the description why I say all three are important. Sun, Moon, and Ascendant will give you a lot of perspective on yourself if you listen to all three. But let's say Aries, Sun, Moon, and Ascendant. You, of course, are having an enormous amount of energy in your house of self. You yourself are very much under the microscope at this time. And you're getting a lot of support in terms of how you think about things, how you are contemplating or communicating things, or at least the potential is there, because all of this dynamic around Gemini is your third house. And since the ruler of the third house is also in the third house, there's a really good opportunity to clarify things, to discuss things, again, to teach things if this is something that you like to do. Or that you want to start as an endeavor, it's a really brilliant opportunity. So this Mercury is pulling in a lovely trine to Pluto, which is in your 11th house, and that's the house of gains and your people, your crowd that follows you if you're on social media, or it's the audience if you're a performer or a teacher. This is also very musical talent. It's Mercury in the third, Jupiter in the third. Fantastic if you are a musician, for example, a really great opportunity to pull something through that as well, especially as Venus is in your first house. So it kind of puts your best foot forward there. Now you've got Neptune in your first, also giving you a lot of initiative around creativity and expressing yourself in a creative way, maybe more so than you've done in the past. Neptune is also, I forgot to mention this, it's in a sextile to Mercury. Saturn and Neptune are basically sextiling Mercury, which also is an opportunity to reflect on those qualities of what it is that you want to establish going forward. I kind of alluded to that in the introduction. So you also have your ruler in a really lovely trine to Venus, and your ruler Mars is ruling the Venus from the fifth house of your enjoyment and what you love to do and how you love to express yourself and how you want to create things. Maybe this has to do with children as well, whether you have your own or you're thinking about that, or there's something to do with the children in your life already that you need to take action on, or that there's some dynamic that might require some discussion, some dialogue with the kids, sitting down at the table and talking about stuff. And this would be a fantastic time to do that. Because there's a lot of support for communication that is healing and with a depth of understanding, a depth of self-awareness. Of course, that's up to us to actually see those things. But also, Uranus is in the house of family, ruled by this Venus, and of course, that means that there can be big changes going on in the dynamic of family. And that can be very positive because you can adapt through those changes to things that otherwise might have resisted change. This is also very much the quality of the new moon here in Gemini in the third house. So lots of opportunities for creative dialogue, but also new ideas, new initiatives. The sun had only just a week before, on the 18th, the sun, 17th, 18th, the sun was conjoining Uranus. And that's also very, very insightful. But then when it moves into Gemini, it really brings those ideas out. So you're giving them legs, as it were. All right, so good luck with that, Aries, and I'll see you in the next video. And for Taurus, Sun, Moon, and Rising, this is happening in your second house, which is all about your security. It's about what you possess. It's your values and the things that you value. The way you might earn income, for example, the money that comes in from you as an employee, or if you're investing, that's your house of investment. And it's also in other ways what supports you. So it's not just financial support, but it also comes through the support you might receive from family, for example. So the second house is the house of family, what surrounds you. So there's a lot here that's happening in terms of the dynamic around family, and there can be something really rich if you want to discuss something with family or deal with issues that haven't been spoken about or that need some kind of attention. This is a really great opportunity also to reflect on issues around your career or around your 10th house issues of parental status or your social ambitions or your career ambitions, for example, what you'd like to leave behind as a legacy. That's all the 10th house stuff, how people see you, how people remember you. So currently, Mercury is in a trine to Pluto, so this is a great opportunity also to think about how do my values align with how I am out in the world, or potentially what I do in terms of my career. And is that working for me still now? And that's part of the Jupiter squaring the North Node, which in your case is in the house of the future. We're looking forward. Is this still the thing that I want to do? Is this still founded in the values that I understand? Or do I need to revise my values? Is it the values I want to revise, or is it the thing that I'm doing that needs revision? Venus is your ruler, and she's in the 12th house and in a lovely trine to Mars, which is in the 4th house. So there will have been quite a lot of internal reflection that might be subconscious or psychological reflection, but it can also be emotional. There can be something that ties you to a realization around where you feel secure or otherwise. Where you want to find more security. This can also be the big question of the Jupiter plus the moon in Gemini, looking for those options, looking for those new ways of seeing what you need for the finances or for the support that you get from the people around you. And then Venus in the 12th can also be a reference to people who are far away, or ideas and concepts that you're working on behind the scenes. There's going to be a lot of energy in your 12th house and the behind the scenes part of your chart, or the far away, unseen part of your chart. And with Saturn and Neptune in there as well, you're putting in a lot of, well, if it's not unconscious, then it's reflection that you keep to yourself, an awareness that you yourself might understand, but you don't divulge, you're not sharing it with other people, which is perfectly fine. This can be also connected to secrets that are a little more delicate, and therefore you also want to be careful because that Chiron Aries, especially when Venus comes along there, may show things that that end up causing some kind of need for healing. Just saying. Okay, so here we go. The other aspect of this is the Mars in your fourth as in terms of that emotional or unconscious stuff, that Mars is also pulling a lot of your attention into family and your roots and your lineage and your people, your land, maybe even, in terms of your land and property, but also your homeland. So here there seems to be quite a lot of dynamic around those issues for Taurus. And then the Uranus in the first house chugs along, and it's still a part of the whole dynamic around you changing in some way. It's in an inconjunct. I didn't mention that in the introduction, but it's an inconjunct from your first house to your second house. And so maybe there's this feeling of who am I in relationship to my faith or my belief system or my way of intuiting myself, my way forward in life. And is that stable? Is that working for me? There's a feeling of not being comfortable when we talk about an inconjunct. There's sorry, I didn't mean inconjunct. Scratch that. It's a semi-sextile. Hello. I think I need coffee. I'm trying not to drink coffee, and my mind doesn't work so well on the first couple of days of avoiding it. Right, so this is called a semi-sextile. It is not called an inconjunct. And so this semi-sextile is also uncomfortable in the way that an inconjunct is because you're not seeing things clearly. You know it's there, but you can't see it well. It's almost invisible. It's considered to be out of sight. In traditional astrology, there isn't even an aspect that continues that actually works with this. It's just it's a way of being irritated. Like you hear the mosquito, but you haven't seen it yet, and this is the kind of energy that's there. So there's something about your faith, your beliefs, and then what you want to change or who you are in this that needs to be changed, or that you're feeling compelled to change. And this is actually keep the faith that this is actually going to bring you to a better place because this is an energy of new, fresh starts. It's not an energy of tweaking. This is time to make a big, big new decision. This could be around relationships because for you, the square from Mars to Black Moon Lilith is something to do with how you relate or the quality of your relationships. And maybe there's a need for you to clarify some things in relationships so that you can go forward because this seems to be a point of frustration. And the frustration is something to do with either your emotional nature or your feeling of connection and to what feels stable or unstable. With Mars in the fourth, there's a strong sense of instability that's not comfortable for Taurus. All right, Taurus, good luck with all of that, and I'll see you in the next video. Gemini, of course, this is your new moon. This is, do listen to the introduction because this is going to give you some dates that you can play with. And of course, this is also Gemini playing with things. And having this new sense of self is part of this dynamic for you. This is, again, an annual thing, but this particular moon is also boosted by the Jupiter squaring back to the North Node that's been in application all through the week. And these lunation cycles, anyway, have a kind of a 3-day arc. And so if we go from the 26th to the 27th and 28th, that's part of the new moon phase or the dark moon phase. So you can give it a few days on either side. And especially if your birthday is around this time, a really fantastic time to think in terms of new beginnings, because this will be, especially if you're born around the 27th, this is going to be your solar return chart, which is like a souped up kind of transit chart that gives you a flavor for the year ahead from your birthday to the next birthday. So here we have a lot of opportunities to discuss something, to show your talents, to showcase your ideas as well. This is coming from with the trine from your ruler Also here, which is again super energizing, super powerful and positive, your ruler freshly revitalized by the sun, although still under the beams, so still maybe not entirely clear. In the trine to Pluto, it gives you the quality of the depth of what I stand for. The Pluto in the ninth house is really a new way of seeing yourself and your purpose, but it's coming from a higher purpose. It's coming from either your spiritual purpose or self or identification with what you have faith and what you believe in, or it's coming from a more political one, and you understand that you've got this role, and this is the role, and that's the cause that you believe in, or that's the political angle that you believe in, and this is where you want to run with that. Either way, you have a higher vision for it, and Jupiter's helping you with that, building up that sense of confidence in how you engage. Now, Jupiter's also still squaring the North Node, and so that's also really helpful in terms of getting stuff done and showing up in this different way out in the world. So absolutely brilliant for you to reach into a new career or new dynamic. Do listen to the introduction again, because a lot of that dynamic is actually specific to you. And again, Saturn is with Neptune up in the 11th house in a sextile to that Mercury and giving some fresh impetus to the cause or the future or the collective or the groups, the networks that you spend time with. And then Venus emphasizes that message as well because she's in a trine back to the third house, which is like the natural house in the zodiac for Gemini. So has a lot to say. Now, caution, because Mars in the third house can be a bit sarcastic. It can be a little bit blunt, testy. So there may be a kind of a sense of, blurting things out, and it might be important. You might have something that you need to say, and you just have to say it. And that is also a Gemini thing, just saying stuff. So here with the Mars in the third, it feels like there's a purpose to what you have to say. That would certainly be the ideal, so that you're not just filling the air with noise and that you're actually saying things because now you really have this thing to share. Be careful also because really for many, many years you've got Pluto in the ninth house, and that can sometimes provoke a quality of dogmatism, of fanaticism in terms of ideas, fanaticism in terms of belief, extremist tendencies. That would show up in your natal chart. I can't say that in a general sense. Certainly, that's not going to be the case for every Gemini, Sun, Moon, or Ascendant. And then, of course, do listen again about the Eris and Chiron. In your case, it's something to do with the way that you fit in the world. So that's in the introduction to this video. The way that you're connecting with groups or the way that you're connecting to your future is very much influenced by that Chiron and Eris. And it's about now in the sextile, so the support that you're getting from the Jupiter quality of feeling more confident, feeling better in your skin, feeling like I've got this, I can do this new thing, whatever that might be, can also, in just a couple of weeks after this event, can also bring you some real support through the second house, whether it's your family or a financial deal. There can be part of that understanding that brings you new sources of income or new potential for your possessions to increase in value, for example. I would have to see your natal chart to see that because those are details that can only be seen there. So I think we've said it all here for Gemini. Do listen to the introduction. There's much more there about you as well. Take good care. Cancer, this is happening in the 12th house of the sort of hidden spaces or the retreating aspect of life, the more so-called calm areas of life. But obviously for Cancer, Sun, Moon, and Rising, having Gemini in the 12th house, it's never really that calm. There's a whole lot of activity going on behind those eyes. And so there's also a lot of travel that is potential here because the 12th house is also about faraway lands, distant places, and we also have the North Node ruled by Jupiter, still in the 12th. In the ninth house, also about travel, traveling with a purpose, traveling to go and do something for work, for example, or to understand something, to educate, or to learn one way or another. That can be a very strong thing to do. If you have plans to do that, this will be an excellent time to do that. And even if you don't, this would be an excellent time to plan something like that. Or at the very least, you can focus forward and say, well, if I have this intention for what I choose going forward, then that will also bring benefit, even if the journey itself or the course itself doesn't start for a few months, for example. Um, yeah, and so your ruler is the moon and always involved in lunations. So that's why, one of the things that makes Cancer typically so moody is because the moon is your ruler, changing all the time. Well, this particular moment, the moon is in your 12th house, and so there may be quite a lot of reflection on those aspects of life that are much more spiritual, much more available to you in terms of your inner experience of life. Venus, who is, ruling the fourth house also of your foundation in life, your psychological foundation and what makes me happy, is also in the 10th house. So focusing on your ambition and your courage, going out into the world and how you show up in the world. And this might be some of that dynamic that is, you're realizing now how I nourish myself by what I actually do now out in the world. But that brings me to this place of feeling settled because I'm taking action. This is certainly my experience, my personal experience, and that if you listen in the introduction, I mentioned how I want to focus into only the things that I absolutely must do in this time and let go of the other stuff because I'm going through, maybe many of you are as well, this incredible kind of spiritual expansion in a way that has been accelerated over the last few months. And I realize that that has to be the priority, and the work is the thing that allows me to live. So that has to be the other priority, and all of that will come forward into something new, whatever the new thing is. And that might be your case as well, that you realize that there's some new shifts that you're becoming more and more serious about, more aware of. So Mars in the second house, there's a focus on money. I will be finalizing my taxes to give it to my accountant because in Belgium, I have to get this done by June. And for example, and then otherwise there can be a lot of expenses, or there can be a lot of desire around planning to earn more money. And the Mars is also connected to the 10th house for Cancer and the fifth house of investing or connecting forward into what you find pleasurable. That can also be about children. So there may be some upset or something to do with children in your life that requires some kind of understanding on your part, or a recognition of the challenge that is coming through family. Mars in the second house usually suggests that you don't get a lot of support in the family. You're the one doing the support, if that's something you have natally. And that might be a part of this moment in time as well. So do listen to the introduction because there's a lot more there. Cancer, you are going to be very much in the spotlight next month, so we'll be talking a lot more about you then. So good luck with that, and I'll see you in the next video. Leo, this of course is the lunation includes your ruler as well because you're ruled by the sun. And just like Cancer, the sun and the moon are always going to create the quality of the moon. And here we have a new start in your 11th house of whether it be your vision for the future or the way you connect socially, the way you connect with groups and friends and dynamics that are forward thinking. It can also be house of gains from what you do, the work that you do, for example, and the business that you run, and these are the gains, and you might be realizing something about those gains that becomes an important part of your awareness. Here we also have this dynamic with Jupiter having almost been a year, almost to the day. In fact, I think Jupiter moved in on the 26th of May last year. So almost to the day, we got Jupiter a year in your 11th house. And this has shown you a lot of the focus that you want to put into social groups, or how you connect with an audience, or how you connect with people who support you, where you receive support from people as well as the 11th house. And especially with Jupiter there, you get a lot of support from people who you may not even know, but they're well placed to support you. And that square from Jupiter to the North Node is also calling in something that is coming through other people's money. That might tie in again the financial question, or something that's growing financially for you. And it can also tie in a relational question, because we're looking also at the dynamic between the notion of the eighth house, where we feel this emotional or psychological or even sexual intimacy, and then Jupiter in that social house, the 11th house. Mars in your first house is also has been trined by Venus in your ninth house, and that's where we're finding Venus moving now towards the Chiron and Eris conjunction. So maybe there's something here where you're recognizing where you need to take action based on a value that you have, that can be about what you have faith in, what you're capable of, what you're planning to generate based on your vision for your why you're here, your life purpose. And that's all the more so because Saturn and Neptune are in the ninth house now for quite some time. You'll find other videos that I've done on that, and really changing your sense of why you're here and how you might need to share that with the world. Or maybe just making that more serious. It's not necessarily changing it, but it makes you take it more seriously. And so this could be very helpful to understand how you now need to take action to accomplish that story. Uranus is also moving out of the 10th house for you and into that 11th house, which has been very busy because of the Jupiter. So now Uranus will change all of that. So you're recognizing, wait a minute, maybe I wasted some time with these people or with these ideas or with this focus. And Uranus will come in and say, there's a new way to do this. There's a different way you can be in this context. And the context itself may change quite dynamically. Pluto in the seventh house, also in a trine from that Mercury back to your seventh house. So 11th, seventh is very social. It's relational dynamics again. And so there's something here that you might understand about how all of the relationships in your life are impacting your vision for your future and who you feel yourself to be in the most sort of profound, essential self. And there is this square from your first house to the fourth house where we have Black Moon Lilith. There might be something about where you're feeling a little bit emotionally challenged, frustrated, maybe set aside, like you're not feeling acknowledged or you're not feeling in the right place. And so that's giving you information. It's telling you where you need to put yourself in the right place going forward. All right, Leo, make the most of this, and I'll see you in the next video. And Virgo, this is happening at the top of your chart. So Gemini is your 10th house, and that's very exciting for new work projects or a new sense of ambition, a new vision for your social status. You know, the North Node is in your seventh house, so it can be with relational qualities around, maybe thinking about getting married, or I'm married and I'm thinking about not being married anymore. All those different dynamics that can be there in your more important relationships, those one-to-one important relationships will show up in the social dynamic of the 10th house. And that's all the more so because for you, Jupiter is in the 10th house while it rules the seventh house of these very important partnerships of all kinds. It references your home as well. So there may be something here that you're aware of and that you want to start anew with reference to home, that how it's going to affect your relationship, how it's going to affect your work and what your work feels like, and how that might show up for a very long term. So it's coming with a long term energy. Uranus is in the ninth house still, and it's reflecting your sense of your higher purpose. And whatever this new moon is telling you now, with Mercury, your ruler, with the moon, the information is very important because once Uranus moves into that house from the 7th of July, you're going to be prepared in a way to deal with the changes that are coming through the 10th house. So it won't be like out of the blue, this is happening, what do I do? It'll be like, yeah, this needs to happen. This is where things need to change. We see that also because of the trine there from your ruler back to Pluto, which has been changing your everyday life. It's changing your focus on health, maybe showing you where your health is not that great and you need to shape up and do something about that. Um, it's showing you how your day-to-day life feels and what you want to maybe readjust around that as well. So this is a great opportunity to use that awareness, really think and plan and strategize for the bigger picture, your ambition and the way you show up in life. Who do you do that with? The eighth house of intimacy, marriage is also very much on the agenda here. So there's a lot that you're referring to in terms of whatever can be stabilized in that area of life, something new, solid, reliable. That might be that you have to rely more on yourself as well. Venus is trining from the 8th to the 12th house where Mars is, and Mars is ruling that 8th house from the 12th house. So this looks like there could be something very deep and maybe unconscious or psychological that you're reflecting on. Can be also profoundly spiritual because that 12th house also is the house of spirit. And it can also have something to do with connections to people which are shifting. There may have been some kind of loss, a bond that has been broken, or an actual death of someone, and there's a loss, and there's a lot of reflection around that. The notion of intimacy, too, is part of the change. So there may be a sense of having a different notion of intimacy or a different level of comfort. As we grow through relationship, there's always a new way of finding intimacy. So the intimacy initially starts out one way, and then as you grow into the relationship, in a healthy relationship anyway, you go a little bit deeper and deeper and deeper into stages of intimacy, and this can be showing you where you're now crossing a threshold into something that you thought you couldn't do or that you need to find a way to do it, whatever that is. And again, that's psychological, emotional, as well as sexual intimacy. It's not only about getting laid, although with Mars in the 12th house, that's bed pleasures too, and that's the 8th house. So there you go. So good on you, Virgo. And so Venus, of course, being in there in a trine to Mars makes that all the more delightful, if that's the theme. Right, I think we've covered it all. Yeah, so your ruler at the top of your chart is a wonderful, bright, and very positive way to start this new cycle. So do listen to the introduction because I'm telling you some dates there about the longer vision for the cycle. So I'll see you in the next video. Libra, this is happening in your ninth house in a trine from you, which is lovely. And that feels very positive. It feels like, okay, now I have new ideas, a new vision for myself, a new sense of what to start in this moment, because now all of the energy that was kind of do I, don't I, will I, won't I, will they, won't they, all of that dynamic of pushing and pulling of the last 3 or 4 months is clarifying in this moment, and it's moving you in a new direction that will continue with that momentum going into the next couple of months as Jupiter moves into your 10th house from the 9th of June. I did another video on that. You can see all the details around that. And then Uranus moves into this place where the new moon is in your 9th house of your vision and of your purpose and your higher purpose and beliefs in life, your higher vision for life. This is where Uranus will move, and that will transform your life. Uranus going into the 9th will really give you a whole new perspective, not only on yourself and why you're here and all the ways that you engage in that and what you believe and have faith in, but it will really open your eyes to a whole bunch of new ways of seeing the world. This is a beautiful transit for you. And also, it can relate to fathers in the 9th house. That is also the house of fathers. This is where the sun is at this moment and it's exalted. Um, Not exalted, sorry, it's in its joy in the 9th house. Jupiter also loves being in the 9th house. It's another house of the joys of Jupiter. It's a very happy place. Jupiter has lots of happy places in the chart and brings out the best of the 9th house. So lots of really lovely dynamics for you to think big. All of what happens here is going to be translated into your 10th house of your social status, meaning what's happening in your couple, for example, or your work. Are you changing that dynamic around how you show up? And if you're not working, it's still how you show up in the world. How do people see you? What is your role when you step outside the front door? All of that is very important. Venus, your ruler, is in the 7th house where she's been, feels like forever, and that has been the story since February. So the story that's been lingering since February is finding now a resolution, and you're moving now into this whole new dynamic, and it can come through some real deep soul searching around how you connect in relationships as Venus comes up to meet the Aries Chiron conjunction. Do listen to the intro because that's where I talk a lot about that. And so part of this dynamic at this time includes how you see yourself in relationship, how you want your relationships to be, and maybe a feeling of more stability in that, because your exaltation ruler Saturn is also there in the seventh. Unfortunately, both those rulers, your exaltation ruler and your sign ruler, are not happy so much in the seventh. It's kind of like you throwing yourself out there, but use this again in the sense that I'm aware now. I'm aware of my role and how I participate in relationships, and therefore I know what I need to do. And that's based on this higher vision for yourself. Mars is in your 11th house of your future and social groups and how you connect with people. And so that's in a trine from Venus in your seventh, your ruler in the seventh. And that can also be incredibly helpful because it pulls a lot of your attention outwards into the future and the vision you have for your life, how you reach into crowds of people and connections through networks and so on. Um, it depends on the quality of your natal chart, but with Mars in the 11th, there can be a tendency also potentially to be a little bit overbearing and step on other people's toes to try and reach into that vision that you have or into that new bunch of people, that new group of people that share your ideas. So also calculate that as well, just measure that. Um, because with the Jupiter in the ninth, like, there can also be this feeling of I know it all. I have the ideas. I'm the one who has all these fabulous ways of thinking about things, and that can get a bit annoying. So just be aware of that. There's also a trine from Mercury back to Pluto in your fifth, and so this can also be about that whole process of how you're seen, how you're changing the way that you're seen in your day-to-day life. I've done a lot about that. Pluto going into your fifth, so you'll see that in other videos, including the Pluto in Aquarius video that I did already a couple of years ago. So we got Black Moon Lilith being squared by Mars in your second house. So be careful in terms of money if there's issues in crowds or in visions for your future or in terms of how you engage with your audience and so on. If there's a difference in values or a difference around money, this will show up also at this time. So it's really about clarifying, what do I value and have faith in? What is my most important message to the world? What is the thing that I really feel I'm guided by? And that will clarify whatever the dynamic is in terms of challenges. All right, Libra, have a good one, and I'll see you in the next video. Scorpio, your ruler, as usual, is still up at the top of your chart. I've said that for many, many weeks now, and this will be coming up to almost the last time I have to say this, which is not a bad place, by the way, for your ruler to be at the 10th. It's just that it's been there for a very long time. So we've been saying that since last November. And this is actually where we find the rulership of your sixth house, where we have a trine from your ruler Mars from Venus to Mars at this point, or it's a separating trine. So there's been a lot of thought around your day to day and what that means for you, but it also might include a lot of thought around the day to day within a couple, within a relationship of business partnership, for example. Who does what? Who does the dishes? Who does the heavy lifting? Who doesn't do anything at all? Um, don't go there. Um, and the notion of intimacy around your maybe your sexual intimacy or your emotional or psychological intimacy with someone, then how to resolve issues that may have been connected to family trauma. We've got Pluto here in the fourth house in a trine from that Mercury in the eighth house, where often issues of family dynamics that are more challenging, family secrets, family um, problems, crises. Yeah, the difficult things to talk about, let's say the taboo things. That's why, for example, Scorpio is happy to talk about taboos because it's got Gemini on the eighth. He'll chat about anything. But with Pluto here in the fourth, you have to dig deep. And so there may be a time where you feel a little bit personally challenged at this stage about all of those different things. But they're coming up for deep healing. It may be about a love relationship with the North Node in the fifth and ruled by that Jupiter in the eighth. And I've spoken about this in other videos. So Jupiter ruling the North Node here is giving you some insight that can also come from intuitive understanding, which is also the eighth house, which is also why Scorpio, Sun, Moon, and Rising is highly intuitive because the intellect rules the eighth house, very tapped in, as it were. Um, Right. And so, yeah, the Mercury in the mix here, Mercury in very strong dignity, is also an opportunity, if you are so inclined, to consider learning more about occult things, taboo type things, anything that piques your curiosity around the mystery school stuff of life or shamanic things. A really good time to understand and learn more about that. Or to decide that you're ready to teach it. For example, I'm going to be the model. I will do the thing. I will show the people how to do that. And especially once Jupiter moves into your ninth house, this will take off and bring you a whole new sense of self, because that is literally the house of the teacher, where the teacher is moving into Guru, Jupiter. So a really great time if you are delving deep or you're looking at new methods for working therapeutically or new ways of understanding life, again, in this more cosmic or occult type way, a really interesting time to change the dynamic. And especially because all of your sixth house of your everyday work and how you're showing up is changing so, so strongly. And of course, Mars not only rules you, it rules that sixth house. So we do have Black Moon Lilith in your first house. So there's something that you might be frustrated by at this stage, and it might have to do with work. It's in a square to Mars, or Mars is squaring it. And it might have to do with either your marital status or your work status or a boss or some hierarchical issue, all of which is tied to this everyday potential for feeling under obligation. And maybe there's something that is an issue that is personal to you with reference to health that can also be with something to do with mental health, not just physical health. And that might require your attention, or it might change the way you feel you can reach out into life in one way or another, or it might affect your work, for example. And with all of this dynamic, it's an opportunity to realize where your emotions also tie in to your health. And that's true for a number of reasons. We've got Neptune in the sixth, which is quite like saying understanding psychosomatic illness and why the mind and spirit and body are also interconnected, and how the body is a hologram of everything that you think. So this is an opportunity to reflect on all of those deeper questions if that's an issue coming up for you. Um, and of course, Uranus is going to go into your eighth house. I'll do a video on that very soon. And Uranus in the seventh has been shaking up relationships. So this might be part of a bigger dynamic of change for you around relationship issues, that how they impact you as well. Okay, Scorpio, good luck with that. I'll see you in the next video. Sagittarius, this is a new moon in your house of relationships. It's a new way of being in relationship. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean there's a new relationship. It may be that. Again, it depends on your natal chart. Lots of factors enter into those dynamics. But it's definitely a new approach to relationship. And if there is a new relationship coming down the pipeline, this is also a great opportunity to really connect in a way that helps you to see who this person is. Really, really dig in. You've got Mercury in a trine back to Pluto in the third house, so you want to know. You have had the wool pulled over your eyes a few too many times, and now you want to know. Is this the one? Is this person sincere? Is this yet another psychopath, and or is this the one I should invest in? And so especially because Jupiter is moving into your eighth house and going to establish something very profound in terms of intimate connection, especially with those important relationships like a life partner, but it can also be really good friends, and it can also be a business partnership, and how money is exchanged, because that's also part of the eighth house. And will Jupiter bring some resolution to things that may have been a little bit unstable at this point? Important, and something that you will have grappled with quite a lot, but at the same time, Jupiter in Gemini doesn't really feel very stable. It can create quite a lot of shifting and change, which can be exciting. And that's also why Sagittarius has this reputation for being fast and flirty, because Gemini is on the seventh and Mars is in the ruling Aries in the house of romance. Um, right. But nonetheless, your ruler will gain a lot of dignity a couple of weeks after this lunation, but you've got a lot of information about relationships in general over the past year of having your ruler here. So all of that is really good. And then, of course, that square to the other sign that Jupiter rules. So it rules your first house of self, but it also rules your fourth house of home and security and what makes you feel happy and what you need, let's say, for happiness. The fifth is how you express that. And the North Node is here. So there's a dynamic here also where you're putting a lot of attention from the notion of relationship and how you share life with people into what makes me feel grounded and stable and secure, emotionally or even materially. Mars is in your ninth house, showing you a new vision. That has been the case since last November. And then it'll move into your 10th house as of the 17th of June. So this dynamic is also creating a big shift in terms of how you engage out in the world. Mars rules that fifth house where there's a lot of activity as well. Do listen to the introduction. Saturn and Neptune moving in there. Now Venus in a trine to that Mars from the 5th to the 9th. It's kind of like you have this freshness and a feeling of hopefulness that has been, maybe stagnant for quite some time. Even with Jupiter in the seventh, it can still feel like it's not working. Things are not working. Often Jupiter in the seventh is there to show you who you should not be with because that's not in your highest interest. Jupiter just wants what is good for you. It wants you to see what is in my highest interest. So this can also be where you're realizing, okay, if I let that go, there's space now for something new to come in. And this can be the realization for you. Your relationship dynamic will change significantly as of July and going forward in time when Uranus goes into your seventh. So do a bit of housekeeping, clean up, um, lose the dross and move into something more constructive. That's also where you'll find the Chiron Eris that I spoke about in the introduction. So that fifth house of self, self-expression, love, how you connect to your kids. There's some healing that's going to be happening here over the course of these days around the new moon. All right, Sag, things are looking up. I know that so many of you have had a lot of challenges, so things are looking up. One of the things about Sagittarius is that there's a capacity to think big, there's a capacity to think positively, but there is also, and this is very important to be aware of, especially as Mars is in your ninth, in a fixed sign, you want to remember that you can talk yourself in or out of anything. So really be careful that you don't get fixated on ideas. Remember, you've got Aquarius on your third. It's like I'm fixated on an idea. I have ideological beliefs. This is the way things are and no other way. So be careful. Pluto is asking you to really look deeply at all of those issues. So if you've been really stagnant for a long, long time, you can't blame the economy. So you got to reflect on all of those things. You got to think about what am I doing or not doing? How am I engaging with life or not engaging with life? And how can I shake all of that up? And with a moon like this, it's a brilliant opportunity. Really, really good, fresh, positive energy coming in for Sag. All right, see you in the next video. Capricorn, this new moon is in your house of work. Just the way you like it, Capricorn. Gemini is your house, your sixth house of everyday work, your schedule. That's why you're so busy, busy, busy. Mercury is in there too, adding to the busyness. Jupiter has been for a year, adding to your busyness anyway. And um, and here with this new dynamic, you're starting a new cycle of the way you relate to your work. You might find that you are recognizing patterns in yourself, especially with the lessons of Jupiter over the last year or so, where you think, too much of that, can't be doing this anymore. And now you're getting supported in you're feeling like, okay, I got this plan, I have this idea, I know what I need to do. If this is around health, it'll be the same understanding, same dynamic. What do I need? Pluto also is going through your second house, where a lot of the questioning of the last couple of years has been initiating this notion of what do I need to feel supported? How do I need to change my relationship to money, to finances, to my possessions, to my family, potentially to my values, my sense of self-worth? How do I need to change all of those things? Or is life around me shaping all of that and changing me as a result? Either way, it's translating into this new everyday vision that you have for yourself. So all really helpful. Your ruler Saturn is now, at the time of this new moon, in the fourth house. So I've done videos on Saturn changing signs that you can watch. and it's joining up with Neptune. So we know that there's a big part of your personal focus, which is still very, very much centered on home and how you feel stable or not, what makes me happy. And this is part of the question that your Gemini new moon is asking as well. What makes me happy in my everyday life? What do I need to do to shape up my everyday life the way I want it to go forward? Mars in the eighth house, which is other people's money, but how you share things with people. So what you share in terms of finances, but also shared intimacy, shared ideas, shared connection on a psychological or emotional level. Um, and that's tying back to your fourth house of your psychological nature. It's tying back to how you feel stable or grounded, where your ruler is. And it's in a very positive trine. So there's something that may have been tested over the last few months with Saturn in your third, connecting to the North Node and all the movement of Neptune as well as Venus and Mercury in the last 3 or 4 months in between that third and fourth house. And now there's something stabilizing. There's something you're recognizing. This is worth fighting for. This is worth keeping. This is a dynamic I want to pursue. This is the thing that I realize needs to be taken care of. Certainly the home and your emotional and psychological self have been challenged again with that Chiron going through there since 2018. So there will be an opportunity to really recognize where you are holding yourself back, yourself from intimacy, this passive aggressive potential that Capricorn can have, depending on the chart. Certain caginess in communication because Capricorn has Pisces on the third house, so you don't always know what they're saying, what they're thinking. They don't always know either, by the way. Yeah, so this dynamic is really good deep cleansing for Capricorn, really, really good. And then Mars is your exaltation ruler as well, so that's quite significant too. And it rules also the 11th house. It's squaring Black Moon Lilith. So there may be something now that you feel super frustrated about with reference to your gains, or there's something about society. People around you. The 11th house is your friends and associates outside of work, for example. It's like, but it can also be people that you relate to through your work, like your audience or the people you're speaking out to in the world. Yeah, either way, the Mars from the eighth can show up as, in a square to that, can show up as a frustration around a feeling of either not having the future you want or not seeing the vision of the future that you want, or having to recalibrate that based on what's happening socially or in the world outside. Either way, it doesn't matter. You got this because Mars rules your house of the future. That's why Capricorn is so steady, plod along, just carry on, head down, horns up, and keep going through the future. Like that's the fearless energy of the Mars ruled 11th house. And I am doing these videos about why each sign means what it means. So that will come soon. All right. I think we've said it, Capricorn. I think we've said all we need to say. Other things are coming through other videos that you'll find more details in, and definitely listen to the intro as well. So Uranus, so Aquarius even, you have this happening in your fifth house of self-expression and fun and what brings me joy in my life, or the things that I do that make me happy. So the fourth house is what do I need to feel secure and happy and to feel grounded in my life. And the fifth house is where you express that out. And now you are expressing it out. So you're one of these signs that can really say something or experience something or express something that is relevant to you at this time, especially because you've got Mercury trining back to Pluto, which is in your first house, changing you in so many ways that I've spoken about in different videos as well. And then also with Saturn and Neptune in your third house, there's a new creative way of expressing something about you, what you have faith in, what you mean to say. Venus is in your third house, ruling the ninth house of your vision for your purpose and your faith and what you believe in. And that can be a really great opportunity to talk about the things that you are finding important in life at this time. Also, Jupiter has been squaring the North Node back to your second house. And that is the emphasis till the middle of 2026 on your values, on the things that you value, and on your self-worth as well. So this could be a part of the dynamic currently. Venus is trining Mars in your seventh house. So there is something here also about communication within relationship itself. And that communication, or a way of recognizing the dynamic of exchange of all kinds in your relationships, might include the casual kind of relationships like neighbors, for example, or your cousins, siblings, and so on. Um, or it can be the intimate partners where the Mars is in there and showing that there's been some dynamic that needs attention. When Mars is in the seventh house, it needs your attention. It's either because it's badgering you or because you need to put more energy into your relational dynamic. And this could very much be what this is telling you. There may be a sense of I need to commit a bit more fully in relationship. This is also a quality that Aquarius has, that notion that Aquarius doesn't really is non-committal or can be quite standoffish. It's because air rules the fifth house. Gemini's on the fifth, kind of going, oh, it's all fine. It's all good. Over here, over there, no problem. And so that's what gives that quality of indifference. But it's not unfriendly. It's still Gemini, right? It's friendly indifference that comes from this fifth house being ruled by Mercury, which is currently with the lunation. So a great opportunity to calculate how am I getting myself across in relationships, and am I sabotaging my capacity to feel bonded or to feel involved or included in the dynamics of the society around me? That's that third house quality. Or I have a message I want to say, I have the thing I want to say, but now I realize that I need to be more creative in how I say it. I need to bring myself through how I say it. That can also be a way this shows up for Aquarius. So all in all, pretty good. And of course, Uranus, who I unconsciously blurted out at the beginning, your modern ruler is in the fourth house and soon to move into that fifth house. So what you're realizing here is a dynamic that you can work with over an extended period of time when Uranus moves into your fifth house as of July. So think clearly in terms of what it is that you really feel in your heart you want to manifest and create. Jupiter rules your second house of your values and what's important to you, where the North Node is putting a lot of your attention. This includes income, by the way. So how can I make money from doing the thing that I love? Jupiter also rules your second house, or your 11th house, rather, the second from the 10th, which is money earned from the thing that you do. So either way, Jupiter rules your earnings houses. Right, so good luck with that, and I'll see you in the next video. Pisces, this moon is happening in your fourth house. The new moon is giving you new opportunities to think about where you live, how that's going to feel, what you need in that area, or what might need more of your awareness, and how you might need to flip the script around where you live, or how you might need to engage more socially around where you live in a very specific way, because Jupiter is there having shown you lots of things about what you feel you need to be secure, what you want around your home life, and how you connect to your family and maybe to your children as well, in terms of Jupiter representing children, pregnancy, babies, and so on, if that's the case for you. And Jupiter is squaring back to your first house, North Node. And so there's something here about finding that stability, or finding this place that you're drawing deep from, that is coming through how you're showing up now. This can include lineage as well, the place that you come from, the land you come from, for example, your homeland, or house and home and or property, literal land. And also because Mercury is there in the fourth, tying back to Pluto in the 12th, there is something here that focuses a lot on ancestors. I am a Pisces stellium, and this has definitely been the case for me. The focus on ancestors has been even more powerful than it already was. I was for many years already focused on this issue, but now this past year with Jupiter in the fourth, and especially as Pluto moved into the 12th, 2 years back, has just been off the charts. And I'm realizing certain things around that are really important to me as a foundation for who I am and how I connect to life. So this may be your case as well. Saturn, Neptune, are now together in your second house. So there's a lot of focus also on family in a general sense, and what you might need to contribute or how they support you. Um, and also Venus, which is the exaltation ruler for Pisces, is in a lovely trine to Mars. And so there's something here about your values going back to your everyday life, where Mars is in the house of your everyday habits and the things that you do for work, for example, the stuff you have to do for work. This can also tie into things around health. If you have any health issues, for example, this would be the time to find the solution. There's solutions that feel possible here. There's new awareness around things. And that also can be an awareness of the health solution itself being coming from where you find your happy place, for example. Chiron and Eris are together in the second house of values, your self-worth, your relationship to money. So this also can tie into money because we're talking about Venus in the second, ruled by Mars in the sixth. So income from work or the money that you already have, what you have to invest, the possessions that you have, the value that you give yourself, or the values that you work through life. Yeah, and then do listen to the introduction because I do talk about that. The Chiron and Eris together in the second house for you has been where you recognize an aspect of your own relationship to self. Your own self-worth is affecting your income, or it's affecting your possessions or your self, how your self-worth ties into money, how you earn money, for example. Um, Mars also rules your ninth house of your vision for, why am I here? What do I do in life? What's the higher purpose of my life? And there's something here that may be a point of frustration. It's a fast-moving square. It's not a major thing, but it's worth pointing out because at the time of the lunation, it's exact in a square with Mars. It's no longer exact because I've been moving the chart, but at the time of the new moon on the 27th, universal time, it's definitely a point to consider because it's squared exactly. So there's something here about the sense of what you're here for, what you want to accomplish, what you have faith in, or what you want to um, do in terms of bringing the vision that you have for yourself or your life out into the world. And that is maybe a point of frustration for you. There's a feeling of like, I'm frustrated in doing the thing that I want to do. It's temporary. It's not a permanent thing. There's a lot of optimism and a dynamic for change happening in this chart. Least of which, again, there's so many things coming up that are changing, but one of the other things is that what you're focusing on here in terms of home and where you live and what that feels like and all that dynamic around the place you put your feet down when you first wake up in the morning, this is also going to change. So based on these fresh ways of feeling that or thinking about that, Uranus is going to come in by the 7th of July and really shake up that notion of home and your connection to family and your lineage and where you live and all of these things. Lots of dynamic for change, and that will bring a trine back to Pluto in the 12th house. Will also tie psychologically to that as well. Where you're really willing to do a little bit more deep digging into your foundation in life, psychologically, emotionally, etc. Right. So there we are, Pisces. It's all very, very positive because also within a couple of weeks, your ruler, Jupiter, which is squaring the node in your first house at this time, expanding your sense of self will bring an even bigger sense of what is possible for you for another year plus, from the 9th of June when it moves into your third, trining you. So all in all, a great time to think optimistically, think forward, and envisage what you want. What do I want for the future? This is my vision for how I want to feel going forward in time, based on this new sense of self that I have, new relationship to my worth, and so on. All right, Pisces, and everybody else who's still listening, I wish you all the best, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.